What's up guys, it's Manga Time once again, and I'm here today to bring you my review of Bleach 621, The Dark Curtain. Despite the kind of cool, ominous name, this chapter is actually quite unremarkable. Pretty much nothing happens for the entire chapter. The ending is the best bit, by far. Although actually it means some of this, like the imagery in this chapter is cool, but pretty much nothing happens. So we may as well get into this, because I honestly don't think this is going to be a long review. But it starts off with a bang, quite literally, because Mimi Hagi-sama basically blows up in Ukitake's face. And Ukitake is looking really bad. Like, he might actually be dead. Like, I didn't think he was going to die just yet, but he might actually be dead. It blows up in his face, and he collapses into the water, and obviously Kione and Sentaro are like, Captain Ukitake, and for now, Mimi Hagi-sama appears to have left Ukitake's body. It's not like flying out of him anymore. Sentaro is like holding him, and it's hard to see on these scans. It might be easier on the manga stream one, but it looks like Ukitake's face is covered in blood. I mean, that might just be. Seriously though, this is really bad for Ukitake. Like, this is a really bad way for him to go if he's dead. But yeah, so Mimi Hagi's the right hand of the Soul King disappears. It's like disappearing up into the sky because obviously it's being absorbed. And yeah, so Urahara realizes it's being absorbed, and then I think what we see is that the black arrow thing that Yhwach fired down at the end of last week is striking the Shakonmaku. I don't know. I find it. I don't really know. My voice is going great. I don't really know what the whole black arrow thing is all about, to be honest. Yes, in fact, that is the black arrow, because it then shoots out across the sky. Why, though, I don't really know. I don't really know what that's got to do with anything. Obviously, that is the Dark Curtain, but I don't quite know what that... Maybe it's just a cool visual thing. But anyway, we then go back up to the palace, which is cool. And we get to see the Elite Sturmator again. And basically, Yhwach is kind of apparently... He's you never see his face in this chapter, which leads me to believe he's undergone a visual transformation. But he's like hunched over and he almost falls over. And Lil Barrow kind of like turns over and he's like, you know, Your Highness, you're staggering a little. And I really thought it was going to be very cliche villain, and like Lil Barrow was going to be like, let me help you stand, and Yhwach was going to turn around and kill him or something. I really thought that was going to happen, but luckily it doesn't. Yhwach's cloak then begins to give off these weird black like baby things that are like going chee 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 over and over, and they have big eyeballs and weird mouths and shit, and it's like, what the fuck is this? It's so homunculus. Like, the whole thing reminds me of the homunculi from Full Metal Alchemist. But yeah, Lil Barrow's like, what the hell? And these little black baby things like start jumping at him, and they are literally like little babies. They have little hands and feet, and it's so weird. And Yhwach's like, what is all this? Lil Barrow's like, what is this crap? And then Hashwolf appears again after such a long time, and he's like, you know, calm down. The Soul King's powers are overflowing. Basically, it seems like Yhwach can't absorb everything. And this is possibly the most interesting part of the chapter now, what Hashwolf says. Hashwolf says, you know, the Soul King's powers are overflowing. His true powers are finally free of the seals the Shinigami put on him. And the Highness couldn't keep all of it in him, so they're escaping from his body. So there's a couple of things to take from here. The first one, obviously, is the fact that the Shinigami themselves put seals on the Soul King. Again, the translation might be iffy, but that's interesting. And the Soul King himself apparently is uber powerful, but they had sealed him in the first place. Now, is the seal the crystal thing? That would make sense. And maybe the sealing was a mutual thing between the Soul King and the Shinigami. I don't really know. Because Hashwolf implies that they weren't enemies, so you would imply that you would think that they were... It was a mutual thing. It's also interesting that Yhwach, he's a beast himself, and yet even he can't contain the entirety of the Soul King's power. So it is nice to know that the Soul King was a complete beast. I think the fact that the Soul King's power looks so sinister, the fact that they're the black one-eyed baby things, could, and I know people have been harping on about this theory, but it could possibly lead to the Soul King being the final villain. If he somehow gets all his power back and he survives this, and, you know, Yhwach dies, I can totally see the main bad guy being the Soul King with all these evil black things, black baby shadow creature things. Yeah, I can see that. But for now, Yhwach can't absorb all of the Soul King's power because he's immensely powerful, apparently. And so these little black babies are going everywhere. And there's a lot of them as well. But apparently, yeah, it's harmless to the elite exterminator because the enemies of the Soul King are now the Shinigami. Hashval says very ominously. And that's a cool development. It means that Yhwach is now the Soul King. And that is something I really wanted to see. It's a shame that the Soul King himself has yet to do anything. But, well, the Soul King is now Yhwach, I suppose. But at the same time, it's very cool that Yhwach is now the Soul King and has succeeded. And the next few chapters should be very interesting. This is still just a setup chapter at the end of the day. But, you know, it is very cool that it's probably going to be now that the elite exterminator are going to be his royal guard. You know, it's very convenient that there's 5 of them, including Hashval. So, yeah, that's awesome. And it looks like he might just take over. We don't see Yhwach this chapter because I think when we see him next, he's going to look totally different, or at least some kind of. He's going to look slightly different because it's that's quite a standard thing to do. Is that when someone's transformed, and if they look different, you don't show them straight away. So yeah. Anyway, though, all the baby things, like I don't know what else to call them other than all the baby things. They all like start spilling out of the palace, and there's thousands and thousands of them. And they descend upon the Seireitei. They go down the black thing that Yhwach created last week. So I don't know, but the whole of Seireitei is now plunged into complete darkness, which is very cool. And you know, Hisagi's like, Stark, almost like midnight. What's this all about? And then basically Soifon's like, what do you mean? What's it all about? It's the damn Quincy's. That's what. I don't really get this bit. I think this bit is unfortunately translation issues. Soifon's. I'm just going to try and pick it out what I think it means. Soifon then says, look, part of the Shakonmaku is missing, and that's probably because... She then says that's probably because of the Seirei wall falling on it. That doesn't make any sense whatsoever. We know that the Shakonmaku is missing because... Isn't that where the guys from the Royal Guard arrived through? But maybe not. But anyway, yeah, she says, you know, just a while back, the Soul King's right hand escaped through that hole and headed towards the palace. And so, you know, she then correctly deduces that the enemy will come through that hole and that'll be bad for them. Soifon then jumps up because she's hot-headed and impulsive. And, you know, she's like, where am I going? I'm going to destroy that ugly net around us. I don't know what that means. You know, I took it to mean the Shakonmaku, but I don't know why the hell she would want to do that. So, I think... And this is I think she means I'm going to destroy the black sky. That seems, because it's technically a net around them, I suppose. So that's the only thing I can think of, really. So she summons her Bankai, which is kind of cool. But then she notices through the Shakonmaku that there's a lot of these black things falling towards her. And she gets almost completely engulfed by these weird little homunculi baby things. And they don't seem to do much to her. They do start to like properly surround her, but then she gets saved by Almeida and it gets Saburi. And he's like, you know, you alright, Captain? And then for some reason she punches him in the face. I don't know why. Typical Soifon. And then Hisagi, Ikaku, and Yumichika jump out and they all Shikai, which is cool. I want to say I don't think we've seen Yumichika Shikai yet this arc, but I could be wrong. Let me know if I am. I don't think he summoned it against Giselle. But anyway, yeah, so they all summon their stuff, and Hisagi's like, we can't let them get to the lab or it's over for us, let's kill these things. And so they start trying to destroy them. But there's basically just way too many of them. Then Byakuya, Renji, and Rukia arrive, and Byakuya uses his Senbon Zakura, and there's loads of it because he's now super powerful. And he manages to annihilate a lot of them, but they just keep coming. And it's quite a nice way of showing the Soul King's power, is basically just like able to engulf everything. It is quite a nice imagery. But the chapter's basically over by this point, and like pretty much nothing has happened. So basically, yeah, in fact the chapter is over. Hisagi's like, we're never going to stop these things. There's too many of them, and suddenly they all start to explode. They basically get crushed by something that doesn't appear to be there. And everyone's like, what the hell? And then you hear this voice in the darkness again, and it's like, this is hilarious. And I was just like, oh my god. Because it's... And he's like, why are you lot waving your swords around like that? And then Rukia, I don't know why it's Rukia, but I'll get into that in a minute. She's like, that's impossible. And then all of a sudden we see this chair, and it's squashing the little creature thing, and it's Aizen, which is awesome. And he's sitting there, and he's like, just use your reiatsu and crush them in one go. It's easy. And he's such a badass. But anyway, he's sitting there in his chair. And it's kind of difficult to decide what actually happened here. What I think happened is he appears, crushes them, but you can't see him at first. I don't know why. But then he kind of emerges maybe from the darkness. Like his chair has just appeared and crushed these creatures. I don't really know. It's really hard to say. It's hilarious if he's moving that chair on his own. If he's like flying around on his little chair, that is funny. Presumably Shinsui is just like right behind him. I don't know. It's hard to say. But yeah, that's literally the end of the chapter. And I'm very happy with the end of this chapter. Because it is what I wanted to happen. It's what I said I wanted to happen. I wanted Aizen to meet the other Shinigami before they left. We should get some great reactions next week. Next week should be really good. Because this was just a setup chapter. Shinji, Urahara, I'm expecting some great reactions from them. I think Shinji might go, like, flip out. Because he's going to be like, what the hell are you doing here? And no one's going to be happy with Shinsui for this. But Aizen had to arrive. He had to arrive. And he arrived like a complete boss. Like, literally, Kubo has had Aizen sharp for maybe a few panels. And he's been trolling in almost every single one of them. I love that he's like, you're idiots. Why are you just swinging your swords around? Just use your reiatsu and crush them like I'm doing. Because I know what I'm doing better than you do. Even though I've only just got out of prison. I hope that Aizen gets off his chair at some point. Otherwise, that's going to be kind of disappointing. I imagine he probably is going to. I almost feel like he's just doing this out of a curtsy. Like, I don't know why he necessarily feel he has to do that, but it's Aizen. So yeah, it's awesome that Aizen arrives at the end of this week's chapter. Next week's chapter should be amazing, but unfortunately there's not an awful lot to talk about the rest of this week. Because there's not really much happened. It was quite underwhelming, actually. I said why Rukia, because like Rukia's kind of a random character to be like, oh my god, it's Aizen. Like, she's obviously met Aizen, obviously, because he tried to kill her at the end of Soul Society. But she's not had the most amount of interaction with Aizen. That's Shinji or Urahara. So I'm hoping that the next chapter focuses heavily on their reactions to his arrival, because it's just gonna be amazing. Because I presume they don't know that Shinsui went to get him, so they're gonna be like, "What is going on? What the fuck are you doing here?" As for the Soul King, like I said, it's very cool that it turns out he actually did have power. Whether or not he was sealed against his will or not, I don't think he was necessarily, because Hashwatha, like I said, implies that the Shinigami have only just become his enemies, because Yhwach is now the Soul King. Speaking of that, Yhwach becoming the Soul King is awesome. There were some cool developments in this chapter, actually. So I think that was cool. I do think that was cool. But overall, I'm going to give the chapter a 7. Just because it was over so damn quickly and barely anything happened. Literally, the whole chapter was these black things come out of Yhwach, they attack the Shinigami, Aizen arrives. That was pretty much it. It's interesting, though, to try and discuss where the story's going to go from here. It does appear that there is now no way for them to get to the Soul Palace. I don't think there is any way, because if you see it, that black arrow is coming from the palace. All of the little creatures are coming off the palace. And if Byakuya and everyone else can't even stop the excess power of the Soul King, they don't stand a chance against Yhwach, the new Soul King. So, yeah. They're all buggered, basically. So I'm looking forward to the next few chapters. I believe this was the first chapter of volume. I want to say 69, but it could be 70. I think it's 69. Yeah, because yes, I'm almost certain it is. So yeah, hopefully we get I hope this is the beginning of a new mini arc where Yhwach rules, and yeah, I want to see Yhwach rule. I want to see the Seireitei have some interaction between each other, and it's cool that we're seeing the Elite Seireitei more. I hope we see them even more. But yeah, so for now, there's not an awful lot else to say. So let me know in the comments below, guys, what you thought of this week's chapter. I'm giving it a 7 purely pretty much just because of the few tidbits of awesome stuff we got. It gets a 7 for Aizen showing up. That's basically 6 out of the 10 points right there. And then he gets another point for the whole Soul King business, learning a little bit more about it. And then that's basically it, really. So yeah, let me know in the comments below, guys, what you thought of this week's chapter. That'd be awesome. As always, give me a like and subscribe. That'd be super appreciated. But until next week, guys, See you later.